Hi everyone, today we will be discussing Jane's case study. First off, we will start by introducing Jane, a little bit about her background. She is a 14-year-old teenager who lives with her parents and two younger siblings. Jane has been suffering from excessive weight gain, whereby she has gained 10 to 15 pounds per year for the last 6 years. She is reported to eat high-calorie foods, and she has a BMI for age greater than the 95th percentile. Jane's parents have been having trouble helping their daughter manage her weight, and their economic status does not seem to work in their favor. So they tend to resort to fast food meals in order to save money and time. In order to understand Jane's case study better, we have to go over what obesity really is. So, obesity is the fat accumulation in heart arteries, and it causes diabetes and insulin resistance. It also is accompanied by joint pains caused by the excessive pressure exerted by the weight of the body on the joints. It is also characterized by high blood pressure, which causes the heart to pump more blood and thus work harder, causing more exhaustion, more fatigue. It also causes what is called as the metabolic syndrome, which is often characterized by visceral obesity. What is visceral obesity? It is the fat accumulation in the abdominal area. It is also characterized by high blood cholesterol, high blood pressure, insulin resistance, and high inflammation. Now, to help Jane find solutions to this problem, we have to understand in general what factors contribute to obesity. There are several factors but we are going to go over a few which play a really big role, in my opinion. Parents' behavior towards food, for example, their aversions toward healthy foods, if they resort to buying a lot of junk food to the house, because often parents set an example to their children. They are the role models of their children. So if the children are going to see their parents eating unhealthy foods, then they are more likely to do so. Another factor is media and advertisements. I think that media has been playing a negative role in advertising unhealthy foods. It is very unlikely that we turn on the TV and see ads of healthy foods, but they are rather fast food chain restaurants, candy, chocolates, sugar sweetened beverages, all of which aim to attract the consumer to buy the product, and unfortunately causing a higher results of obesity among individuals, specifically among children, which are basically our concern right now. Another factor is genetics. Genetics play a role in predisposing individuals to obesity, both from the father and the mother. In Jane's case, Jane's mom has hyperlipidemia, which is defined by high lipid levels in the blood, such as cholesterol and triglycerides, thus genetically predisposing Jane to higher risk of obesity. Jane's dad has type 2 diabetes, which also does not work in Jane's favor. Another factor that contributes to obesity is school and the school lunch programs. Children spend most of their time during the day at school, so the food that they eat during school hours really plays a role in their overall health outcome. So if they are going to be served unhealthy foods at school, junk food, sugar sweetened beverages, then they are most likely to gain weight. Whereby if schools work on programs to serve kids healthier meals, then the outcome is surely better. Looking further into Jane's case, as we can see here, regarding her stature for age, Jane is at the 25th percentile, as you can see, whereas her chart for weight for age, she tends to fall between the 90th and the 95th percentile. It is definitely not favorable to be between the 90 and the 95th percentile. This predisposes her to risk of obesity, and where she likely is right now. If we were to look at the BMI for age, Jane falls above the 95th percentile, which is a big concern. This, unfortunately, predisposes her to not only obesity, but rather the risks that we talked about that come along with obesity. I think Jane needs a plan that will work in her favor, that will help her to become healthier. And what we are looking at right now is a chart of Jane's intake that she reportedly stated in a 3-day food record. As we can see, her recommended intake is 2,368 calories, but she had been consuming day 1 around 16% in excess, day 2 around 35% in excess, and day 3 around 40% in excess. So she is definitely consuming more than her body needs. This excessive intake in calories causes excessive weight gain. Now, if we take a closer look at her carbohydrate intake, she is also 160% in excess, whereby her recommendation is 130, and she is consuming 339 grams. And day 2, she is still in excess by 210%, and day 3, she is still in excess by 202%. The same goes to protein, where she's still in excess. As for fat, the same. The fatty acids, we have the same issue. Day 2 tends to be likely fine in the alpha-linolenic acid, whereas in her fiber intake, Jane seems to need to consume more. And this is very understandable, as she tends to consume junk food. Those foods do not have the recommended fiber intake, which is necessary for children to help them, whether in digestive problems, whether helping regulate sugar absorption. Looking further at Jane's dietary intake of minerals, we seem to have a bit of an issue in some, whereby she is deficient in whatever is highlighted in yellow and excessive in whatever is highlighted in red. So as we can see, in calcium she is deficient, phosphorus she is excessive, and magnesium she is deficient, and so on. So basically, for deficiency in calcium, the consequence is osteoporosis, rickets, osteomalacia, stunted growth, and muscle spasm, whereby an excessive intake in phosphorus causes muscle spasms, and magnesium deficiency causes stunted growth, weakness, and muscle spasms, and vitamin D deficiency will cause weak and deformed bones, osteoporosis, and a higher inflammation risk. Thiamine in excess tends to have no problem, since the kidneys tend to excrete the excessive intake. Riboflavin is the same as thiamine, does not tend to have any toxicity to the body. Niacin in excess causes flushing, headaches, cramps, a rapid heartbeat, diarrhea, nausea, etc. Vitamin B6 in excess causes bone pain, numbness, loss of balance, whereas a deficiency in folate according to Jane's labs. We are still discussing Jane's mineral and deficiencies and excessive intake. So she's deficient in folate, and thus a deficiency in folate tends to cause anemia, diarrhea, weakness, a sore tongue. Since she tends to be fine in vitamin B12, we will not discuss any deficiency or excess problems. In relation to pantothenic acid, there tends to be no problem as the kidney also excretes excessive intake. According to Jane's intake, she is taking excess vitamin A. Excessive vitamin A intake causes hypervitamosis A, accompanied by nausea, headache, liver damage, hair loss, and birth defects. Vitamin K, Jane tends to be deficient. A deficiency causes bleeding, bruises, decreased calcium in bones. An excessive intake of vitamin C is also not of a big concern since the kidneys also tend to excrete excessive intake. Vitamin E in excess causes increased bleeding as the clotting time decreases, and excessive intake of selenium causes hair and fingernail loss, a garlic breath, which is known as selenosis. In order to help Jane, it is important to put an intervention plan, but it is also just as important. A part of the intervention plan is to set goals. So the goals that should be set have to be short-term and realistic. We cannot expect Jane to lose a big amount of weight instantly, and we should explain this to her so that she does not get discouraged. We have as a goal to lower cholesterol and sugar levels by the dietary intake. We have to encourage Jane to engage in more physical activity to get her body to burn more calories. We have to make small diet changes to the current habits that she is already following by making healthy food swaps as well. For example, substituting butter with olive oil, substituting juices with water or flavored water. And the first and foremost goal is to prevent more weight gain. Our goal is to avoid more weight gain and start the weight loss process. The interventions, in my opinion, it is important to go grocery shopping with Jane and her family, not only to educate Jane about healthy options at the supermarket, but also to educate her parents, and she lives with them, and the choices they make affect her greatly. Jane should also have a food diary to record her intake and to become more aware of what she is consuming and what she is consuming in excess. We should encourage her to eat at home more rather than resorting to restaurants and fast food meals. And we should remove all junk food from the house in order to give more incentive to Jane to follow her diet. You know what they say, out of sight, out of mind. And looking into Jane's labs and assessing her sodium intake, which tends to be on the higher end, and her fasting glucose, which also tends to be on the higher end, as well as her LDL and triglycerides. I made a diet that consists of the following, which allows Jane to have a maximum intake of healthy foods while still enjoying something that she likes and abiding by her recommended caloric intake in order to start the weight loss process and become a healthier individual. Hope you enjoyed Jane's case study today and hope you learned with me as well. Thank you.